Chris Scalzo here with
Matt Howell.
And on this episode of The First Run, Matt and I discuss the latest film from Joe Begos, VFW. We just talked about his film Bliss that was playing exclusively on Shudder, right? And now we're just going to jump right into VFW, starring Stephen Lang, William Sadler, a whole bunch of people, actually. And we're also going to continue our sex comedy marathon with one of the films I think I was probably dreading the most. I think it's this and Zapped are the ones that I'm truly terrified of. So we are now here, and we will be talking about Screwballs. Content warning. I'll put an explicit tag on this episode, but still, I just can't imagine we get through this without some kind of mild profanity being uttered at some point. We'll tell you what you should be picking up in your physical media picks this week. You can just, order from Amazon, go to Best Buy, have them drop it in your trunk, whatever it is people are doing nowadays. Featuring your streaming and straight-to-DVD picks of the week, of course. And then finally, in honor of our 80's marathon, this is like a palate cleanser for me, right? We're talking about 80's sex comedies. So I thought, what about just our favorite 80's comedies? Which I think is a little easier to digest. So let's start everything off with a clip from VFW.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, there you go. You've been at this, haven't you?
I have?
Uh-huh.
2 of us. Still here.
Still here. You know where you are, kid? In the VFW post.
How about we close the bar down early tonight?
What do you got going on?
The best birthday that Freddie ever got.
Lizard! Hey, this is girl!
It's Q&A time, kid. See, the problem is that me and my old friends are probably gonna die tonight unless you help us out to understand what's happening here. You steal this?
Foz killed my sister, all right? This, though, it's all he's got his whole life.
VFW. What is that?
Veterans of Foreign Wars.
Good. Soldiers are good at dying.
That's just mean. All right, so now we know what VFW stands for. Why don't you tell everybody what is this film all about?
I guess it's the near-ish future. There's some new drug on the market called Hype. It really melts the brains of its users.
It's nuke.
It's nuke, right? Nuke me, baby. Then basically it turns them into kind of these slathering, desperate zombie people. And basically, this drug den that's in an old movie theater is across the street from this VFW. She sees that her sister has died, so she decides to steal the main drug dealer's stash, bricks and bricks of the stuff, and she escapes into the VFW hall where the drug dealer sends the zombified addicts and junkies to go fetch it for him, and there's a standoff a la Assault on the VFW 13.
Interesting that you bring that up, yes. Clearly, it looks to me that Begos borrows heavily from late 70s and then 80s Carpenter in this film. I mean, just listen to that score you just heard, right? This thing screams Alan Howarth, kind of John Carpenter collaboration scores. So, Matt, am I accurate in stating that we both were okay with Bliss, right? That it had its moments? I think one of my big concerns was more like that Begos focused too much, I think, on the violence and gore and not so much as elevating the story. So now this is his next film. Have we seen any improvement there? No, I'm afraid not. The violence is at the forefront, and it's cheesy gore effects. I mean, I laughed out loud with that first death where the woman falls to her death and explodes like a water balloon at the bottom of the floor. Yeah, and it's 20 feet maybe?
Yeah, I know, right?
Not that high.
And then when her sister finds her, she's completely fine. Like, she's just got like a bloody nose, but the amount of blood that came out of her, you would have think she would have popped like a balloon. It's a lot of stuff like that. And I think part of it is as much as I am loath to say this, I can't believe I'm going to say this, it has less nuance and depth than Bliss does. This is obviously something that we've seen, a half a dozen times before with these kind of 80s films, Last Stand kind of films, zombie films kind of mixed together. Yeah, I mean, it's like if you've seen Assault on Precinct 13, if you've seen The Crazies, if you've seen literally any zombie movie, especially from that era, you're gonna get all the familiar story beats. Really, the coolest part about it, this is all of the kind of older character actors who I have a real fondness for. Quite a few of them.
Yeah, I mean Shaft is in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. You have Martin Kove from The Karate Kid.
Yep.
Cobra Kai Forever. As we said, William Sadler previously. So yeah, I think my issue is that, as I said, I'm a sucker for synth scores. I totally am. So that thing kind of initially hooked me right in. But Begos, I think, is still clumsy with his character development and amateurish in his shot selections at time. I don't quite get it. There's just a couple shots that are almost like high school, college level framing, and it's just, I'm not quite sure. And there aren't so much plot holes as kind of plot conveniences, right? Especially in the beginning 20 minutes or so, when the first waves of attacks of the VFW start to happen, where these drugged out, zombified-esque kind of gang drug guys are very patient and attack our heroes one at a time, waiting their turn. Other times, too, where they're amassed outside the VFW, and there's a scene 4 minutes later, where they're not anywhere in sight until it's convenient for them to make their appearance, right? And it's not like, and there's no feel like they've been waiting and stalking them, because, again, that's not the development that Begos has given these characters. They're more kind of this mindless, just obey orders type thing. Now, we did have Dora Madison? She returned. She actually was our lead in Bliss, and she plays one of the lieutenants of our bad guy, Boz, who, by the way, I think is horribly cast. I did not buy him as this just living embodiment of evil kind of drug dealer character at all. I don't know if it was the Judas Priest spike jacket or the wispy facial hair. I'm not sure. It just didn't really work for me. He didn't
strike fear in you
presence at all.
No.
Now, Stephen Lang is still good. I have this weird thing about Lang, Matt, where I feel like he's like just total a-hole in real life. I'm not quite sure why. Like who he was like in Avatar, I think is who he really is in some capacity. So I'm sure he's a sweet guy, but it's just, I don't know what it is. And of course, Fred Williamson, Shaft himself, is in this, who is okay. I mean, I think a lot of the actors do the best with what they're given, which clearly, unfortunately, is not much.
Right.
So the violence gets the job done. I think Begos still does know how to handle that kind of stuff. It's gonzo. It's crazy. It's over the top. That's what he does. And again, though, I think he focuses on it too much. I think it has some major retro Carpenter vibes, but it's missing something. There's this X factor that Carpenter, particularly in his 80s films, was able to bring that makes them just watchable over and over again. Like Prince of Darkness, okay, is not a great film, but there's something about it that is just They Live, again, not a great film, but there's just there's these qualities about it that make you want to watch it over and over again. It's so, and it's just Begos doesn't have that. So he tries to mash the zombie, Assault on Precinct 13 thing together, and unfortunately, he kind of delivers this underbaked kind of thriller. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, it's definitely missing something. It just seems very soulless, for lack of a better term. It just seemed like I just didn't connect with the thing at all. Like I didn't have any thrill watching it or anything like that. So yeah, I think it's missing, for lack of a better term, the kind of heart that Carpenter brings to his films. It just doesn't have any kind of life to it.
I got to tell you, if you're in the mood for this kind of modern but lovingly homage kind of throwback stuff, right, where you want to see current directors working in this kind of exploitation kind of genre action, I think what you need to do is go with S. Craig Zahler. I think he is the guy that's delivering this stuff that is intense, heavy, and are uncomfortable sits, right? So he's done Bone Tomahawk, Brawl in Cell Block 99, and Dragged Across Concrete.
Right.
All three of those films are experiences, and I think they're able to capture just a rawness that you just don't see in film today, but still feel like loving homages to the 70s and 80s. So I would suggest you watch any of those three films over VFW. If that's what you're in the mood for, check in with Zoller instead, unfortunately. Maybe Begos. I was really looking, Matt, for some improvement over Bliss. But I actually think this is a step back for me. It's just not... We both gave Bliss a B-. I'm sitting at a C+ for VFW right now. You could maybe talk me into another B-.
Yeah.
But I was really looking for something kind of special and just unrelenting and raw, especially dealing with the subject matter that we have, these veterans at their last stand, what they've been through together, right? And they're able to come together one last time for this one final battle, and it doesn't connect with me.
Yeah, I liked it less than you did. I gave it a C, worlds apart, I know. But yeah, I don't even think stylistically this thing is even as good looking as Bliss was. I mean, Bliss had some really creepy shots in it. It had some things that are, at least in moments, are really affecting. And I can't say any of it was particularly effective for me. Even the actors, even though I enjoy them in various levels of irony, it's even them, it just seemed kind of blah, boring work for the most part. It's too bad, really.
Yeah, this could have been... I think it could have been a little more special than it is and a lot more entertaining, but unfortunately not. If you've had a chance to see VFW, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Coming up on home video, your physical media picks this week for this upcoming Tuesday, May 26th. There is one, I think it's the last really great film, Matt, we saw in the theater, but there's a catalog release that's getting a special edition, which if you haven't seen it, I can't recommend it to you enough. And let's hear a clip.
So what's happening with you? I just think you had the world by the balls, and I'm not sure you even got any.
Well, I got them when I need them, all right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's smart and funny. That's what I always admired about you, your wit.
You're a prick, Andy.
I always was. So let's see if there are any left.
What?
Cojones. Oh, you need money? So do I. Let's solve it.
What are you talking about?
There's a place we can knock off. Like the back of our hand. Easiest money we'll ever get.
What are you saying?
It's worth about $600,000. And it's insured, so it's a victimless crime. I offer that in case your conscience bothers you. I lay it off on 20 cents on the dollar. That's $60,000 each. Give or take.
So that, of course, is the sorely missed Philip Seymour Hoffman, along with Ethan Hawke, in Sidney Lumet's final film, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. This is getting a special edition release from Shout Factory. I already own it on Blu-ray. I bought it when it first came out because I absolutely love this thing. There's 2 new special features, an new interview with Ethan Hawke, as well as a Dark Story interview with the screenwriter Kelly Masterson. Everything else is ported over. From what I see, I don't see a new master of the film at all either, so I don't know if this is really worth the upgrade. But if you haven't seen it, I can't recommend it enough. So they're 2 brothers, basically, who plan to rob their parents' jewelry store. Everything seems... It's going to be the perfect crime, Matt, until everything goes wrong. Hoffman is fantastic in this thing, of course. You can pick that up, though, from Shout. I don't like the new cover either. I much prefer the original cover. Hopefully, though, they'll do the reversible action so you can put the original one on there.
Mm.
Have you seen Before the Devil Knows You're Dead?
No, I haven't, actually.
Nah, it's a great high note for Lumet to go on. He passed a short while later. The Invisible Man. Lee Winnell's update of the classic Universal monster is being released. Includes an HDR presentation of the film and a Dolby Atmos audio track for your 4K release. There's some deleted scenes as well, a feature commentary by Winnell, and more. I think, Matt, is it the last good film we saw in the theater? I think it is. What else did we see?
Yeah. What did we see? We saw Onward.
I think that was the last film I saw in the theater, right?
Yeah, I think mine was Sonic the Hedgehog. So, yeah.
Yeah,
it was a weird time to go out of the theaters. we were really getting to the dregs there.
Yes. So you can pick up, though, this update to The Invisible Man, which is very, very good. Mm. A documentary about the band called Once Were Brothers, Robbie Robertson and the Band is coming out as well. If you're not familiar, they started out as Bob Dylan's backup band, and they ended up becoming one of the more influential groups of the 70s. So you can check that out. New to Blu-ray, We mentioned Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Criterion is giving us Husbands, starring, written, and directed by, I don't know if he has a role in it, John Cassavetes. Following the sudden death of their best friend, a trio of middle-aged Long Island men channel their grief into an epic multi-day bender that takes them from Manhattan to London in a desperate, debauched quest to feel alive. Also coming up from Criterion is Scorsese Shorts, new 4K restorations of Italian American, American Boy, The Big Shave. It's Not Just You, Murray. What's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this? New conversations between Scorsese and film critic Farron Smith-Neame. A new discussion among filmmakers Ari Aster and Josh and Benny Safdie. And more. Atlantic City is getting a release from Paramount, it is believed. This is a Louis Malle's film. Atlantic City is revitalized as a resort when gambling is legalized. But the new industry also brings unsettling changes for Lou, played by Burt Lancaster. 40 years of bodyguard boyfriend to aging beauty queen Grace, played by Kate Reed. Also features Susan Sarandon and Bob Goulet. Warner Archive is giving us The Reluctant Debutante. It's social season in London, Matt. And amid the swirl of coming out balls, the aristocratic broadbents are intent on giving their American-educated 17-year-old daughter, played by Sandra Dee, to the right entry into society and the proper upper-class beau. Featuring Angela Lansbury as well as John Saxton. You get a brand new master of that from Warner. Shout Factory is giving us A Midnight Clear. This is the war film starring Peter Berg, Kevin Dillon, Ari Gross, Ethan Hawke, and Gary Sinise. Set in 1944 France. An American intelligence squad locates a German platoon wishing to surrender rather than die in Germany's final war offensive. There's a brand new look back at A Midnight Clear, which is a featurette on the making of the film, featuring the director, as well as Ethan Hawke, Frank Whaley, and Ari Gross, and a ported-over extra from previous releases, audio commentary, and deleted scenes. Scream Factory is releasing... I guess there's a fan base for this thing. I don't understand it. Speaking of John Carpenter, Escape from L.A. It's a brand new 4K restoration from the original camera negative, and then 6 new featurettes, all interviews with various cast and crew, including one with Bruce Campbell himself. I do not like this film, Matt. Have you seen Escape from L.A.?
Yeah, I've seen it. You didn't like Snake surfing the massive tsunami that went through the ruins of LA. Almost as bad as the James Bond one with Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, Die Another Day. That's another bad one. Good Lord. Arrow is releasing Solid Metal Nightmares, the films of Shinya Tsukamoto. This includes Tetsuo the Iron Man, Tetsuo 2 Body Hammer, The Adventures of Denshu Kozo, Tokyo Fist, Bullet Ballet, A Snake of June, Vital, Haze, Kotoko, and Killing. You get a brand new high-definition 1080p presentation of all 10 films, lossless soundtracks, audio commentaries, career-spanning interviews, some archival materials, and a limited edition packaging for the first bunch that have come out that features original and newly commissioned artwork, and a double-sided fold-out poster. If you're a fan of Tsukamoto's work, then I think this is the box set you've been waiting for. Vinegar Syndrome is releasing Dolly Dearest in a brand new 2K restoration. An American family moves to Mexico to fabricate dolls, but their toy factory happens to be next to a Sanzian grave, and the toys come into possession of an old malicious spirit. Seven is releasing The Strange Vice of Miss Ward. An ambassador's wife discovers that one of the men in her life, either her husband, an ex-lover, or a current lover, may be a vicious serial killer. It's a brand new 4K restoration of that film, and the first 3,000 units include a soundtrack CD. Severin is also releasing Satan's Slave, brand new restoration of that film. Since the death of his wife, Munerato and his 2 children, Rita and Tommy, are quite shaken, especially Tommy. On the advice of his friend, he goes to a fortune teller who forecasts the destruction of his family. At the suggestion of his fortune teller, Tommy learns black magic through books. Munerato gets a housemaid through an agency who looks suspiciously like that fortune teller. Severin is also releasing An Ideal Place to Kill, the Italian giallo thriller from Umberto Lenzi. 2 hippies find themselves on the run from the law and soon end up undercover in a villa owned by a mysterious woman. Brand new 2K restoration of that bad bear and includes the full uncut version, which includes X-rated inserts, Matt. Never available before on home video.
What?
And there's new audio commentary as well by Eurocult enthusiast Troy Howarth and Nathaniel Thompson. Dark Force is releasing Ator the Fighting Eagle. Mystery Science Theater fans are well aware of Ator and his adventures. Mondo Macabro is releasing Satanico. I think I'm nailing that. Satanico. I'm going to go with Satanico. Pandemonium. Sister Maria is known in the Covenant or the Convent, and through their lives and for their lives, for their furniture and their future. Sister Maria is known in the Covenant. I did it again! The word is pronounced convent.
It's pronounced coven.
The password is convent. For her good works and charity. But in the secret depths of her sexual fantasies, she is tormented by visions of another world, a world where her forbidden passions are allowed to run free. 2 different restorations of this one. A new audio commentary as well, and the limited edition run includes a reversible cover with both sides unique to the release, 8 double-sided postcards reproducing original art for the film, a booklet, and the special red case. Only 1,000 of those are getting made, so if you're a fan of Satanico Pandemonium involving a nun in a convent, pick that up. Severin is also releasing Al Adamson's The Masterpiece Collection, 30 remastered full-length films of Al Adamson. Flesh and Blood, The Female Bunch, Psycho A Go-Go, The Fiend with the Electric Brain, Blood of Ghastly Horror, 5 Bloody Graves, Halfway to Hell, Horror of the Blood Monsters, Blood of Dracula's Castle, Hell's Bloody Devils, Dracula vs. Frankenstein, Brain of Blood, Satan's Sadist, Angels, Wild Woman, Death Dimension, Mean Mother, The Naughty Stewardess, Blazing Stewardesses, plural, Girls for Rent, Jesse's Girl, Black Heat, School's Out on Sunset Cove, Cinderella 2000, The Fakers, Uncle Tom's Cabin, The Dynamite Brothers, Black Samurai, Carnival of Magic and Lust. Also includes David Gregory's 2019 documentary, Blood and Flesh, The Real Life and Ghastly Death of Al Adamson. You know Al Adamson?
I don't.
He did a lot of crazy kind of cult exploitation kind of films. Crazy story. He got married, retired, started doing real estate, and he had a contractor living at his home while he was renovating his house, and the contractor killed him.
Huh. Interesting.
Put his body in a hot tub, filled it with cement, and covered it over with like wood flooring.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. New 4K releases. We're almost done, I promise. Shout Factory is releasing The Deer Hunter on 4K. You get a feature film and audio commentary. On the Blu-ray that's included, you get 4 new interviews. Wowzers. Also, we're getting Zombie released in 4K. Fulci's classic horror film. One of the most impressionable and first horror films, Matt, that I saw in the Italian genre. In fact, it may be the first Italian horror film I ever saw, was Fulci's Zombie. I love this thing. I have bought it 4 times. I will not buy this 4K because I don't think I need to upgrade. I just bought the new 4K restoration on Blu-ray like 9 months ago, and they announced this 4K like 2 months ago or so. So you get a 16-bit Dolby Vision HDR presentation and an exclusive new Dolby Atmos audio track. I read on Blu-ray.com that you can't really notice a difference in the audio track. And then Maniac from Blue Underground, the other cult film classic. You get a brand new 16-bit Dolby Vision presentation of that one and a Dolby Atmos audio track as well. Your straight-to-DVD pick of the week, Matt, is going to be Breeders. Fearing that their city is a target of a serial rapist, Manhattan detective Dale Andrade finds an unlikely ally in Dr. Gamble Pace when they are teamed up to investigate the brutal crimes. Their suspicions, Matt, unbelievable as they may seem, lead them to a terrifying discovery that an alien life form is impregnating women to reproduce his species. This is a late 80s cult classic, Breeders. What should we be streaming this week?
Well, since we talked about VFW and we alluded to it in our review, I'm going to recommend that people go out and check Assault on Precinct 13. Early John Carpenter film. Essentially, it is the survivors or people holed up inside of a police station while a seemingly endless stream of the world's largest street gang attacks the precinct trying to get in relentlessly. It's a fun, exploitative slice of 70s sleaze, and it's fun.
Oh, yeah. No, I've always liked that one. That's another one with a great score. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it's a good one. You should check that out. Speaking of sleaze, okay, I'm going to take a shower after this one. Let's spend a few minutes, very few, and talk about Screwballs.
At TNA High, the student body's got a lot more bounce to the ounce. Thank you, miss.
And the Screwballs only have one thing on their minds.
Whipped cream, big boy.
I think you've needed this kind of private lesson for a long time.
What were you doing in the girls' restrooms?
Field trip? That's Purity Bush, the last holdout at TNA High.
Did you know I always have a headache?
It's the pussy factor.
If you're looking for something different, but can't quite put your finger on it, it's Screwballs.
Nice shot.
Mind lighting my fire
Matt, so I didn't realize... My first note in my review is, I hate you. So I didn't realize the Screwballs were like the Sweat Hogs. Like that was the name of the gang. They called themselves the Screwballs. But I guess that's what the trailer there. I was looking for a clip, but I love with these 70s, 80s films, these trailers are kind of a little slice of gold as well. So I thought I'd play that for everybody. So Screwballs. Okay. There's a bunch of guys at the high school, TNA High School, which stands for Taft and Adams. Oh, boy. And this group of guys who should all be in jail decide that they are going to get somewhere with the last...
Yeah, so I guess from what I understand, what I was able to gather from this plotless movie is that they've seen every other girl in schools, like, breasts or something, except for Purity Bush.
Who now? What's her name?
Her name is Purity Bush, spelled with a C in it. Okay, so it's classy. All right.
Is it? According to Wikipedia, it's not. So
it's not.
I'm gonna look it up on IMDb as well, because Wikipedia is always the bastion of facts. So
yeah, I think I looked it up on Letterboxd to log this, and it was spelled.
Oh, you logged it. That's brave of you.
I did. Hey, no shame in our game. It's not here for posterity forever. Okay.
All right. So IMDb has it with a C as well.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with that. I'll agree with you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I guess they had seen literally every other woman, in the schools, breasts or something else, and except for Purity, it was the last mountain to climb.
So you have, I love the names for the cast. You have Goodhead, Stuck Off, Boudoir, Shivers, and my favorite that almost made me turn it off, Jerkovsky, is
subtle.
There are 2 sexual assaults in the first 10 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, I know.
One involving a minor.
I know. They make this like, I got caught face, and it says like detention across your face. And I was like, it should say like prison time as they're going up into some of this stuff.
So, and I was like, is there a hardcore version of this? Like, it felt almost like an adult film at times, that they just cut out the XXX scenes. It's really, and the other two, but the humor, like they have a running gag about this woman in the principal's office who has a speech impediment. She stutters a lot, so that's played for laughs. And I have all in caps, Jerkovsky and Purity Bush. There's a scene where people are actually wearing dunce caps. I think the My Pillow guy plays the lead guy's father. It was just what he looked like to me. There's a Leave It to Beaver joke as well that I almost threw my remote through my television. And then something happened to me. So I'm watching this thing and I'm getting angrier and more disgusted in just how incompetent and inept this whole thing is, how lazy it is.
Right.
And then it kind of hit me like a wave, like, is this thing like, it's so gonzo and out of control. Is it like a secret masterpiece? Is it sublime? Is that what's happening here? Am I just like, if you just kind of let the thing wash over you and its innatity and how over the top it is, does it then become brilliant in how bad it is?
I don't think so. I think that's like Stockholm Syndrome. That's like movie Stockholm Syndrome for you right there.
Could very well be. That might explain it, because there was so much in here that I couldn't stand. But there's a turn, like I said, where it's just, for me, it becomes, I think you just surrender, right? I think you just give up. like how I think it got to a point where it's like, how angry do I want to let this thing get me? So then I just gave into it.
Seems like some kind of metaphor based off of what the subject matter of this film is. You know,
that's scary.
It is.
Yeah,
Screwballs got you right where he wanted you.
Just think of the absolute worst Benny Hill skit you could possibly think of. I mean, if Yakety Sax showed up in this thing, I would not have been surprised.
That might have elevated it a little bit for me.
That's actually true. And there's the big reveal at the end with Miss Bush. I'm gonna hit that C. Bush. I want to really pop that because I don't want to. Where they use magnets to.
Was it magnets? Or I thought they were gonna do like some kind of pulley system, but I almost looked like they started a tornado in there, like some kind of negative pressure
thing. It was
thing.
magnets because all the musical instruments, all the metal got pulled to a part of the room, but somehow the magnets generated wind.
Right. That's why I thought it was some kind of. They have created some kind of vortex that just affected her and the principal.
Yeah, no, I don't. This is horrible. All right, it really is. It's vile. It's almost too. It's. I sometimes think it's almost more offensive in how dumb it is and how lazy it all is.
Mm-hmm.
Am I? No, I'm assuming you loved it. What are your thoughts?
No, I absolutely hated this. I thought Porky's was a sublime, subtle classic compared to this thing. This is atrocious. I don't know if it's the worst movie I've ever seen. But
Matt, wait though. There's a point where a guy gets a bowling ball stuck on his area.
True.
And
he does launch it down. Yes.
That's like arch comedy. That's like high. That's like Larry David level shit. I mean, that didn't turn you.
No. I mean, it does seem like something that you would see in Duck Soup. Let's be honest.
This is Marx Brothers level stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could definitely see Harpo with that. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah. I mean, I'm always struck with these things. These like Porky's took place in the 50s. This is supposed to take place in the 60s. Were they just like the absolute worst time to go to high school? And like, I just don't understand. Do people really act like this? Like, is this something that's supposed to be relatable? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. The women in it, I forget why. Like, one of them gets plastered up against the window for some reason, and she's like completely like it's no problem.
Yeah, because they're all at the drive-in, and she's making out with the guy, and then the guy she's making out with realizes that the town stud guy, who I think actually maybe the smartest joke in the whole film, that the rich stuck-up stud guy always has his tennis racket with him.
Yeah, I know.
Every single scene, yes, which I think I appreciated that. But so his sister though, his sister's about to make it with the guy, so he runs and somehow her dress gets stuck in the van door, so she's stuck because she doesn't know how to open doors. I'm assuming or something. I'm not sure.
Right.
Which
or take her dress off inside the van. That would probably have worked as well.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think. Listen, if you can generate wind through magnets, you need to not think so much about this thing. There's a different level. Maybe this thing takes place in an alternate universe, kind of like It Follows, where everything's just slightly off.
Well, yeah, that would explain why being able to try and hypnotize somebody with a giant phallic hot dog thing on a diving board was supposed to have worked. I didn't understand what they were trying to do with that either.
That's true.
Yeah.
Spanish fly.
We spent a lot of time talking about Screwballs.
And two, does Jerkovsky have a learning disability? I think too that's another level of offense. I think they play him as a slow gentleman in some capacity at some point.
But they seem to ditch that
after the first 10 minutes.
I think he was just so horny that he just couldn't overcome it.
I
think that's what it was. He was just overcome by his hormones.
That could very well be.
Yeah.
I was.
As all of them were.
Yeah,
just to various levels of predator.
Oh yeah, you're not responsible for your actions.
Oh, not at all.
Jesus. This thing. Oh. I really think I'm going to do it, Matt. I think I'm going to do it. I can't. Yeah. No, I'm. Screwballs. You get an F, baby. And not for fun.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen worse movies and ones that have made me more angry, so I'm gonna give this a D-. I have a feeling that Zapped might get me to an F. I'm not sure.
Well, that may get me to like a G. I don't know. We'll see what it is. Listen, I'm gonna go in with an open mind on Zapped.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this film, I think, would have made the Bechdel test podcast. That whole show would have imploded watching this thing. I can't imagine what Zapped is going to be like.
I think I saw Zapped in like the 80s. I think somebody's mom rented that for us without knowing what it was for like a sleepover we had when we were like 10 years old.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was very, very inappropriate.
So, Screwballs. Available right now on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So you can watch it today. I don't know why. I really don't know why. If you've seen it, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com.
Trash? Trash.
Indeed. It's trash. Okay. Let's clean our palates a bit here, Matt, and let's spend a few minutes talking about our favorite 80s comedies. You know what's funny is when I put my list together, Matt, I actually hit my top 5 in order. Just right out of the gate. I don't think that's ever happened where I just listed it and it just hit right out of the gate. Nice. So let's hear one, though, that didn't quite make it.
You know what's really beautiful about this? You two kids picked me. You didn't have to, but you picked me. It makes me want to kiss you guys. Come on. Come on. Give me one. Come on. Huh? All right, let's get down to business. You're right. I got a card around here somewhere. Here. Who do I have to kill? Here, hold that for me, would you? There.
Whoa!
There you go.
You don't have to kill anybody.
Possession. Good. Learn to throw your voice. Fool your friends. Fun and party.
No, we just want to get some people out of our house.
I understand. Well, look, in order to do that, I'm really going to have to get to know you guys. You know, we got to get closer. Move in with you for a while. Get to be real pals. You know what I'm saying? Save that guy for later, huh?
My wife and I would like to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure. Go ahead, shoot.
Well, for instance, what are your qualifications?
Well, I attended Juilliard. I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague, and I had a pretty good time during that. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it. Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy. Now, what do you think? You think I'm qualified?
Is Beetlejuice 2 actually ever going to happen? I know that they've been threatening it for a few years now.
I don't know. I mean, is there a lot of juice for Beetlejuice?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I
puns.
Yeah, I know. I had seen Beetlejuice quite a few times when I was a kid, but I haven't seen it in so long. I don't even know that it's funny. I'm kind of nervous that it's not.
I've read a couple current reviews from people revisiting this, and it does still work. Okay. I would like to check it out again. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll get around to it at some point, but I think it's got a, what is it? It's got a 84% in Rotten Tomatoes, Matt. So, I don't know that. Beetlejuice. Don't say it again.
I won't.
Why don't you start everything off then? Well, actually, I'll give you the ultimate number one. I'll go first.
Thanks, buddy.
My number 5 then is a all-time classic of absolute ridiculousness. All right. It came out, it just scoots in, Matt, 1980. It basically, well, I guess that's not fair because Leslie Nielsen had not a big career, but he had that Police Story series, right, by the same group of people, the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams. But he plays a major role in this. Of course, Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, and it's, of course, Airplane. There is a horrible event. There's a food poisoning that incapacitates the pilots on this plane, and a rogue pilot with a drinking problem is called upon to try and land the plane. And it is, I don't know, Matt, what do you say? I mean, that's the problem, right? I think all of my picks here are pretty cliched, and this still holds up to this day. It is just so ridiculous, and the gags, don't call me Shirley, all that stuff, but yeah. Somehow it still works to this day, even though I've seen it probably a dozen times. Every time I watch it, it still makes me laugh.
Yeah, it's definitely got a silliness to it that you got to be in the mood for. But yeah, Airplane's a great pick.
So what's your 5?
My number 5 stars a comedian at the height of his powers in the late 80s, 1988. It's Coming to America, starting Eddie Murphy as an African prince who decides that he is going to go undercover as a common person in the U.S., along with his trusty friend and confidant, played by Arsenio Hall. He's going to get a blue-collar job, and he's going to find true love, not based on his money. It is one of the funniest, probably maybe the funniest Eddie Murphy movie that's out there. I would say even funnier than Beverly Hills Cop. But it also has, that first instance of Eddie Murphy sitting around playing a bunch of different characters, riffing off of each other in the barbershop. It's a pretty great film. And also James Earl Jones is just great as the king as well.
Yeah, it's right in my honorable mentions. It didn't quite make the cut for me. So my number 4, then maybe a bit of a cheat. I think it's known as a comedy. You don't have to tell me what you think.
Okay.
But it's Midnight Run with Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. It's a buddy cop. They're not both cops though, but it's a buddy cop film, right, where De Niro plays a bounty hunter, and he has to transport the accountant for the mob who's embezzled money from them. So he can testify for the FBI, and it is like, I think we've used this word twice now, but it is a sublime film. It's very funny. It's very entertaining. The action works for it as well, and De Niro is an absolute blast, and so is Grodin. But I think it was my first real exposure to De Niro with a comedy bent. I had not seen King of Comedy, even though that's a very dark comedy. So yeah, no, I think Midnight Run is one of the best films of the 80s, never, let alone 80s comedies. So it's my number 4. And it doesn't seem to be, it's one of those films, like, I feel like there's people who know it, respect it and stuff, but it doesn't seem to have a mass appeal. Like, a lot of people haven't seen it.
Right.
So if you haven't, check it out. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, it's one of those films. As I was doing research for this list, there are a lot of action comedies from the 80s. Like, I didn't realize there was quite as many. All right, so my number 4 is an early film by one of my favorite set of filmmakers. It's Raising Arizona by the Coen brothers. Came out in 1987. Stars Nick Cage and Holly Hunter as an ex-con and his law enforcement officer wife who want to have a baby, can't have one, so they decide to go kidnap one from a very rich individual, and they're hunted down by bounty hunters and the biker from hell and all kinds of stuff. And honestly, the scene where he is trying to escape from the security or from the convenience store is still one of the all-time classic chase scenes in cinema. It is so good. That's really kind of the quirky Coen sensibility, but I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I totally blanked on Raising Arizona. That is a great pick. I don't know how I forgot all about that thing. What is wrong? I even Googled 80s comedies and it didn't come up for me. What the hell's going on?
Well, you had your 1 through 5, boom, right there. That's, you got tunnel vision on,
Way to go, Jimmy Google. Work on your algorithm, man. So I just realized that my number 3, Matt, is also directed by Martin Brest.
Oh.
And that is because he directed Midnight Run. Beverly Hills Cop. Like you said, you went with Coming to America. I went Beverly Hills Cop. This is my first real exposure to Eddie Murphy. Came out in 1984, where Murphy plays a Detroit police detective, and it's his boss, right? It's his friend who gets killed. Mm-hmm. His boss doesn't get shot until the next film, right? So, right. And then he goes to LA to get revenge. So he goes to LA to find out what's going down, and he meets up with Judge Reinhold, of course, John Ashton, Ronnie Cox, who is one of your classic not B-movie, but your character actors. And of course, Jonathan Banks of Breaking Bad plays a heavy in this as well. But for me, it was my first real exposure to Eddie Murphy, and I found that thing to be hilarious. His Axel Foley, the wise talking cop is just a lot of fun to watch. Very charismatic. And it's the movie that really made Eddie Murphy a big star, right? That's the one that really blew him up. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, that's my number 3.
All right. So my number 3 might get me kicked off the show. I have a feeling it's going to make a much higher appearance on Chris's list. But after a lot of soul searching, as much as I love this film, there are still today films I like better. But my number 3 is the quintessential supernatural comedy from the 80s is Ghostbusters, starring Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Sigourney Weaver. It's just got this great classic cast, a lot of riffing, a lot of dry humor with this kind of absurdist bent to it. I mean, Murray absolutely makes this film. If he isn't in it, it's not anything close to what it became.
For sure.
This was one of the first VHS that I owned in first or second grade. And literally I could recite the movie verbatim as I watched it. I saw it so many times. All-time classic. I still love it, but there are a couple obviously that I love a little bit more.
I guess so, which is crazy to me because Ghostbusters is my number 2.
Oh, okay.
It was one of the more influential films of my life. He said 1984. I was 9 years old when this came out. Saw it in the theaters down in North Haven, Connecticut. I remember it clear as day. Walking out of that thing. I didn't get, obviously, probably half the jokes because I was 9. But still, like the scene where Dan Aykroyd gets the ghost...
BJ?
Yeah. That's, you know, I have no idea what was happening there. But it's still, I thought the thing was so funny, and I became obsessed. I got a hat. The Ghostbusters kind of this panel, not a panel hat, but I got a hat. I tried calling the phone number a bunch of times. I had the soundtrack. I listened to it over and over again. I also had it on VHS, and and like you said, Bill Murray is the beating soul of that film. You're entirely right. The beating heart. Do you beat a soul? Does a soul beat? I think
Sure.
I'm mixing
in this
my...
case, yes.
Yeah.
Mixing metaphors.
Yeah, but no, it is a fantastic film, which made Ghostbusters 2 such a disappointment to me that it was just not terribly good. And we'll have to see what happens with Afterlife, right? Which is, I guess now, was it always coming out in 2021, or is that supposed to come out this year at some point, I thought?
I thought it was supposed to come out this year at some point, but obviously not now.
Yeah. So, number 2.
All right, so my number 2 is honestly one of those films that you can just watch over and over and over again. It's become quintessential 80s film, even though most of it takes place in the 50s. It's Back to the Future, starring Michael J. Fox, who goes back in time, gets stuck back there.
What is your number 1? This is fascinating to me. Go ahead.
Okay. So honestly, it's one of the best 80s films out there, just full stop. You can show this to basically anybody, and they're going to have a good time watching it. It holds up really well. It's not really particularly problematic in some areas, but you know, it's still got a sweetness to it, and it's just a propulsive sense of story that's just fantastic. My number 2.
Yeah, it's my number 1. Back to the Future is a perfect film. It's one of the greatest films I think of all time. One of the best films, not just of the 80s. And Michael J. Fox, perfectly cast. Sorry there, Eric Stoltz, who I guess they filmed a whole bunch of it, right, beforehand. It just wasn't working, so they fired him and brought in Michael J. Fox. But still, it is brilliant. It is hilarious. It captures kind of the 80s so perfectly. It's a time capsule that is timeless. It's incredible. So Back to the Future is my number 1. It could not be, as I said, it is a perfect film. That, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, we should do that sometime. How many perfect films came out of the 80s? Carpenter's The Thing. Just so many great films. So,
yep.
All right, I got to hear what this is. I can't imagine what your number... There's only one film that I would... It's even though it was my number 6, I would accept as your number 1, and we'll see if it is.
What is your number 6? I'm curious.
It's the Blues Brothers.
Oh, it's not the Blues Brothers.
Okay. So what is it?
All right, so my number 1 is maybe one of the greatest rock musicals of all time. With developed that kind of mockumentary format, and this is Spinal Tap, starring Christopher Guest, Michael McKean. Kind of the groundwork for the Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show stuff that they did later. But it's just an absolute classic, and I think from a laugh per minute, as far as the ridiculousness of it goes, it always brings a smile to my face. It's always just absolutely hilarious. While I agree with Chris that Back to the Future is a perfect film, I think This is Spinal Tap is a funnier film.
Yeah, you know what? That's another one I missed. let me explain to you what's going on. There's been a little stress here at TFR headquarters this last week. There's a lot of stuff going on. You know, we don't bro down, hoe down, but it's been a rough week for me. And I kind of went through and listen, all right, what are my favorite 80s comedy? And I blanked on Raising Arizona and Spinal Tap. I adore Spinal Tap, and I totally forgot about it. And Fred Willard just passed. There's been a lot of stuff with him, with Christopher Guest, you know. I can't believe I forgot all about it. In fact, I think I'm going to swap out. I don't know if I'm going to swap out. I may swap out Airplane for it, or even pop it up to like number 3 and push everything down. Really, I am really disappointed in myself, and I'm very happy that you remembered to include that. So thank you very much. And enjoy these accolades while they last, because it's not often.
Well, if you do pop it up into your top 3, we have the same top 3, just in different orders.
That's true. Yeah. And really, that's what the show is about. You and I get
really
into it as much as possible.
But I mean, we've ended all the future debate. I mean, we've settled. We've told you what
That's
the top
true.
3 are. You just have to decide which order you want it to be.
That's very true. Exactly. So, do you have any other honorable mentions, Matt?
Yeah, Airplane, A Christmas Story, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The First Vacation, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Caddyshack, and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
I would say all of those as well, and I would also include Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Heathers, Princess Bride, Brazil, and then Repo Man, which I just caught up with, I think, 2 years ago or so. I blind bought it from Criterion, and it's fantastic.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but it's really fun. So, all right, what are we missing? What are your top 5? I'm assuming you would have remembered Spinal Tap, which I'm so embarrassed. But there you go. I'm glad it made the list. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. So we already know, Matt, that next week is deep breaths. Zapped.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about Zapped, but we're also going to spend some time and discuss A Hidden Life, which is Terrence Malick's latest film. I don't know if you saw, but I swapped something out. So I popped in because it's available now to rent, and it's supposed to be absolutely insane. Josh Trank's Capone. I put that in for next week.
Okay.
Because I love me some Tom Hardy, too. So we'll have to see how that goes. And I think it'd be a good way to wrap up the Sex Comedy Marathon, because we'll be doing Fast Times that week, too. So just totally gonzo craziness, I guess.
Right.
But next week it'll be, I don't know, just Reluctant Nazis. And with Malick's A Hidden Life. So, good times. Shoot us an email, feedback@thefirstrun.com. If you have any marathon suggestions, anything you want us to see during this quarantine, our schedule is pretty flexible right now until the theaters reopen. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you will find us. Go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. We'll read it on the air, and it'll help other people find the show. That's what you want, don't you? All right, Matt, let's go ahead then. Take an extended break. And their stinger this week is actually another favorite of mine that didn't quite make the cut. So I hope you enjoy that as well. Take care, stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Why did you attack Sergeant Kruger?
I didn't know who it was. I just saw him pull a gun on a girl.
Might I remind you, Mr. Rivers, that the penalty for murder is death by firing squad. Let us hope for your sake that Sergeant Kruger survives.
Yeah? It is a hospital, mein General.
What is the condition of Sergeant Kruger? Yes, I see. Well, let me know if there's any change in his condition. He's dead.